Hey, Jeremy Crow here. This week's video is actually a topic that was recommended to me by my good friend Vanessa. So she actually suggested that I do a topic on the art of memory. So actually, I'm not sure if you're aware, but there are things you can do to improve your memory. And this does tie into occultism quite significantly, but let's just get right into it. So, there are techniques that you can utilize that will dramatically improve your memory skills. So, the two main techniques that we're going to talk about here are pegging and mnemonics. So, pegging, and I'm not talking about the sexual term. That's I don't think that that's going to improve your memory very much if you engage in that. But what what we have for pegging in terms of the memory skill technique, what that means is you essentially will have an established system in your memory already, something that you've already memorized that is a sequence. So um, you'll have some way of creating a sequence in your mind, and there's something very specific associated with each of those steps in the sequence. So you can easily go through and in order and remember each of those things in the sequence. So a very typical thing that a very typical way of doing this in the past was for people who were doing speeches. And to remember all the different points that they wanted to talk about in their speech, they would imagine that topic residing within a room. And then they would walk through the building and look in the various rooms in order and remember what the topic was, because they would remember what they placed in that room in their memory. So, I mean, you could do this with, you could use the Roman room method, is what it was called, to peg grocery lists if you want. It doesn't have to be points in a talk, right? So say the first room. So you would pick, say, a room that you very easily remember or memorize yourself walking through the building and looking in the various rooms. So this would be a building that you're very familiar with, potentially even your own home. So then you'd walk through the room, and you would vividly imagine placing, say, bread in the first room, and the next one eggs or whatever, right? But you would do it in a manner in which the bread is interacting in some usually ridiculous manner in the room. So say it was the first room, say it's a bedroom. Maybe there's a loaf of bread in the bed, snoring loudly and tossing and turning and drooling and getting himself all soggy. That would be a way to, and that's actually you're creating a mnemonic. You're creating a mnemonic device by imagining that silly thing in order to remember it. So I'm kind of getting all over the place here, but essentially you peg this mnemonic image, this ridiculous image of the bread, sleeping, snoring, drooling all over himself and getting himself soggy, in the first bedroom. And then you would imagine, say, the second room is, say, the bathroom. And maybe you have eggs, right? So maybe you imagine the eggs just everywhere. Like maybe you have the eggs like in the soap dish. Maybe you have eggs just overflowing the sink. Maybe you have, a chicken on the toilet just laying egg after egg. I don't know. Something that's really silly and ridiculous, right? Something that'll be easy to remember when you look into that room, in your memory, you'll be like, oh yeah, that chicken laying those eggs into the toilet, just massively, you know. If it makes you laugh, then it's probably a good silly image to use, because it'll be a lot easier to remember if it's humorous, right? Or ridiculous, or violent, or sexual, some of these images that are really outrageous will be the ones that are easiest to remember yourself, to remember. So that's the Roman room method, and using a mnemonic device to remember a list of things. It's a very, very powerful method. Now, the other thing you can do is the mnemonic device itself is like I said, creating some sort of scenario. Really, it's not just an image. You want to create some vivid action. You want some sort of action to be taking place, because this is going to help you remember it a lot better. It's a lot easier to remember a scene than it is to remember a photo. Now, aside from the Roman room method, people will create their own peg system. So the system, they may even create multiple pegs. So a very, very popular one to do is to create a peg for each number, going up to at least, 9 or 10. And then you can use that. Some people have peg systems that they've established for, all the way up to 100. So they'll have 100 different things that they have established in their mind. They've essentially created a new mnemonic for the numbers, 0 to 100. So they'll have 101 different mnemonic devices, each of them for those numbers. And then they'll utilize those in combination to remember even larger numbers. So, for example, if they wanted to remember a phone number, let's say they know they just want to remember the last 4 digits, or they're trying to remember. Yeah, let's say they're trying to remember a phone number. Let's say the 7 digits. They know the area code, so they're just going to go, let's say 555, 1, 2, 3, 4. So they'll have a mnemonic for, let's say 5, and then for 55, and then they'll tie those together. And that'll be the area, that'll be the NXS or NXX portion of the phone number. You have the I'm not going to get into how phone numbers are made, but you have the first 3 of the 7 digits, and then you'll have the other ones, and say it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So you'll do, say, 12 and 34, and so you have 4 different images in your head that interact with one another in a certain sequence. And then you just have to remember that. And then tie that phone number in your mind with the person somehow. So you would have the 5, the 55, the 12, and the 34 mnemonics. They would all interact with one another, and then they would be placed in a context of the person whose phone number it is. So people can remember crazy things. Like, people can memorize, using these devices, they can memorize a shuffled deck of cards and remember every single of the 52 cards in that deck in order, because they've been able to memorize it with this mnemonic device and a peg, an elaborate pegging system that they've worked on and established within them. And once they've established that pegged memory system, then it becomes such a powerful tool for memory that they can use for the rest of their life. In occult systems, people have even created elaborate universes. So a three-dimensional kind of pegging system. And you know what? A lot of these occult systems are kind of peg systems already. So you have, like, for example, the Chaldean Ladder of Lights, which later got utilized by the Kabbalists, who formed the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, a very familiar symbol to most occultists. That has 10 categories, essentially. Some might say 11. And each one, you can kind of place different things into those different categories. You can basically place anything in the world into any of those categories. So it's sort of a pegging system, and for memory. And it also kind of organizes your brain in a different way. So it's there's a lot of interesting things that can come out of this. You can utilize it for creating connections between things or concepts, ideas that may never have been correlated with one another before. So it's also a way of kind of manufacturing creativity in yourself, or generating new ideas. So there's a lot of applications for this, and tarot. There's so many different things that can be used, like, or the zodiac, or the very basic one of the elements, right? So this is very much tied in with how occultism is utilized. But even if you're not interested in the occult or the esoteric, having these tools to utilize for memory is very powerful. And they also say that intelligence is almost a function of memory, and even mental health, they say, can be a function of memory as well. Because if you have a greater memory or a greater capacity for memory, then that means that you have a longer period of time that you can kind of process information that comes in. Anyways, so those are some basic methods, an introduction to some basic methods you can utilize to improve your memory. Another application you can use for this, for mnemonics like that, is for remembering faces. So often the best way to create a memory of somebody is to pick out something very distinctive about them. It could be something flattering, or it could be something unflattering. They don't have to know, right? So you could have this a silly nickname for them that kind of rhymes with their actual name, that points out, basically imagine like a school kid, right? Pretend that you're a mean school kid that's coming up with a mean, insult that rhymes with the person's name, that actually kind of is witty and makes sense to call them that. Don't actually call them that, but just, you can keep it in your memory. You can have a little silent giggle about it for yourself, but really you're doing it as a form of respect for the person, because you're respecting them enough to learn their name, to memorize their name, and to be able to call them by their name if you ever see them again. And people feel very valued when you do that. So you're coming up with an insult, but you're doing it with good intentions, you know. So you can take it that way. Now, getting out of the techniques, you know, the tools, you can also improve your memory a couple other ways. So one way that you can improve your memory is by getting a proper rest, getting good sleep, which I need right now because I just finished a 12-hour shift. But I wanted to get this video to you guys. So I'm doing this before I go to sleep. Get some good sleep. That'll improve your memory big time. Actually, regular exercise will improve your memory. Even just 45 minutes of brisk walking, or not just kind of like really slow kind of toddle, walking around, but actually kind of trying to get somewhere, even if you're not specifically trying to get somewhere. Have that kind of move with intention, right? So you have a little bit of energy in your walk, right? So a brisk walk for about 45 minutes a day has a massive benefit for your memory and your brain in general. You can also take supplements or foods that will improve your memory. So ginkgo biloba, this is one of these herbs that is it's been used for memory for a very, very long time, and it's just well known as a memory drug in a sense, or memory supplement. So you can take ginkgo biloba. Now try and remember that. You might have to write it down so that you can remember to take it. That's the thing about ginkgo biloba. You have to remember to take it. But yeah, I take that fairly regularly. I take it probably, at least 2 or 3 times a week. Another one that is really good to take is lion's mane mushroom. So you don't need a lot. You can look up the dosages that people take. It ranges quite a bit, but even just a little bit every day is supposed to have a massive impact on your mental functioning. I haven't been doing it for very long, so I don't really know, but I definitely feel like it has had an impact on me for sure. But some people say it's very dramatic. I haven't been taking it long enough to get that kind of dramatic effect, but a lot of people will say that lion's mane mushroom is a game changer, and that its effects are even roughly permanent, like that, it clears out beta amyloid plaques in the brain, which dull thought, it interferes with the synapses sending signals to one another, and that can accumulate in a person, especially if you have some sort of degenerative disease like Alzheimer's. And lion's mane mushroom helps clear those plaques out of your brain. So that's obviously going to have an impact on the ability of your brain to send signals between the synapses, because these plaques just block up the pathways. So I would recommend that, just based off of what I know about it. And I have started taking it myself, as I said, and I do feel like I have had a positive impact from taking that. Although apparently there's much more greater effects to come later, but even at this level, I feel like it's worthwhile to have taken. Also keeping a journal, will improve your memory, because you are sending a signal to your subconscious mind that remembering things is important. This is something that has a dramatic effect on dream recall. For example, if you keep a journal, if you keep a dream journal and you at least write out in point form some of the basic, even if you just take literally 2 minutes and write out in point form some of the major points of the dreams that you remembered from the sleep session that you had, you'll start to find that you'll remember more dreams more often. I've even gotten to the point where I'm remembering like 4, 5, even 6 dreams a night. It's really crazy how powerful keeping a dream journal is in improving your dream recall. And it'll have the same impact on your waking life as well. If you have a regular journal and you just jot down a few things that happened that day that you thought were important, even if you just take 2 minutes and write down the point form, it improves your memory, even if you never review that journal. So these are some basic things you can do to really improve your memory. Just being more present in the moment, being more observant, these things improve your memory as well. So, there's a lot of things you can do. Memory is very, very important. What are you without your memories? There's something, but, it's so formative, right? Your memories are so important. You want to improve your ability to make memories, to imprint memories in your brain in the first place. You want to improve your ability to draw them back at will. It's very important, obviously. Those are the two main factors, right? To be able to imprint the memory in the first place and to draw it back again later. Now, there is another technique that I actually forgot until just now, but I remembered. There's a method where, and I forgot it again. What is it? Of course, this is going to happen during a vlog about memory, right? Oh well, I'll get it in the next one. So, maybe I'll write it in a comment. Do you have any techniques that will improve a person's memory, or are techniques that, like, do you take any supplements? Do you utilize any, techniques or tricks or tips? Do you have any memory tips for us? Share them in the comments below. And I'll see you again next week. Bye.